His perfect birthday party was meticulously planned to reveal a new life, but instead, it unveiled a shocking betrayal that shattered everything I thought I knew. I had shared 3 years with Justin, a man whose charm was undeniable, always focusing his gaze intently, never distracted by the room. Our journey together unfolded swiftly. Within a year, we were cohabiting in a cozy, yet financially straining, city apartment. The cost of living here is always high, regardless of your timing. Our connection wasn't flawless, but it felt secure. We envisioned a future, a home, some travel, perhaps children down the line. Justin, however, held a greater preoccupation with outward appearances than I did. He obsessed over our car, the trendy restaurants we frequented, and crafting the ideal social media posts. Looking back, those were clear warning signs I should have heeded, but clarity often comes with hindsight, doesn't it? Roughly 4 months prior, a constant wave of sickness and extreme fatigue washed over me. I decided to take a pregnancy test, mostly to dismiss the possibility. We were careful, but not entirely foolproof. 2 distinct pink lines stared back. I vividly recall sitting on the bathroom floor, mesmerized by that tiny plastic stick as if it held ancient secrets. After a week of processing, my best friend, Barbara, was the first to know. During our girls' night, she noticed my abstaining from wine and immediately understood. She posed all the right questions, delving into my desires, Justin's potential reaction, and practicalities like health coverage and maternity leave. Her insights helped me organize my scattered thoughts. Regarding Justin, I opted to wait. My birthday was approaching in 3 weeks, offering what seemed like the ideal moment. We'd arranged a small gathering at our place with our closest circle, and I imagined sharing the news with everyone I cherished at once would be truly special. Oh, the irony of anticipation. The weeks leading up to the celebration were peculiar. The morning sickness, which truly lasted all day, became a constant companion, demanding stealth to keep it from Justin. He remained oblivious, a fact I attributed to his busyness. He was returning home later, engrossed in his phone, and generally more distant. I simply assumed work pressures were weighing on him. My birthday arrived on a Saturday. I spent the morning preparing, while Justin ventured out for the cake, a task that somehow consumed nearly 3 hours. Regardless, by 6 o'clock, our friends began arriving. Barbara and her husband, Aaron and Sergio, my visiting cousin Lana, and a few others, including Maria, an old college acquaintance. The party hummed with life, delicious food, flowing drinks, my sparkling water cleverly disguised as a cocktail, music, and laughter. My plan was to make the big reveal after dessert. Barbara's encouraging glances across the room sent nervous flutters through me. Around 9 o'clock, Justin clinked his glass for attention. My heart momentarily froze. Had he somehow discovered my secret? Was he about to steal my moment? He launched into a grand declaration about my exceptional qualities and how fortunate he was to have me in his life, all while holding my gaze. Then he presented a small, elegantly wrapped box tied with a silken ribbon. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on us, some phones raised to capture the event. A fleeting thought crossed my mind. Could it be an engagement ring? A split-second panic ensued about whether to still announce the baby if he proposed. I opened the box. Inside was not a ring, but a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it, puzzled, and read words now seared into my memory. I'm leaving you. You're useless, and I deserve better. Your belongings will be packed by Monday. I looked up, certain this was some cruel joke, but his demeanor had utterly transformed, cold, aloof, almost amused. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he declared our relationship over, that it had been fun, but he'd outgrown me. He even chuckled, a genuine, mirthless laugh. A few others in the room nervously joined in, clearly believing this was some elaborate prank we'd orchestrated. But then Justin simply turned and walked out the front door, uttering not another syllable. The silence that followed was oppressive. I stood there, the note in my hand, my pregnancy announcement unspoken, as our friends exchanged bewildered glances between me and the now empty doorway, awaiting a just kidding. But none came. Barbara was the first to move, crossing the room to gently take the note from me. After reading it, she muttered an expletive, calling him an absolute scoundrel. The room erupted in a flurry of whispers, confusion, concern, and outrage on my behalf. And me? I simply smiled. Not because I wasn't utterly devastated, I was. Not because I wasn't profoundly humiliated, I most certainly was. But because, in that very instant, a crucial realization dawned. Justin had no inkling of what was truly unfolding. He believed he held all the power, that he had masterminded this impeccable departure, this public dismantling of our partnership where he emerged as the dominant figure. But he didn't know I was carrying his child. He didn't know I had uncovered his hidden credit card statements 2 weeks prior, discovered while searching for a postage stamp in his desk. He didn't know I'd already seen the messages flashing on his smartwatch when he was in the shower. Really, he should have enabled two-factor authentication, right? Most significantly, he didn't grasp that I wasn't the type of woman to crumble when pushed. I was the type who became ruthlessly strategic. So I smiled. I thanked everyone for attending, assuring them I was fine, a blatant lie, and that they needn't worry about me. They did. I even sliced the birthday cake Barbara had brought, distributing pieces as if we were commemorating an ending rather than mourning one. Maria, interestingly, departed almost immediately, claiming sudden illness. Curious timing, don't you think? We'll delve into her role soon enough. The others remained, assisting with cleanup and offering refuge or a sympathetic ear, or perhaps even alibis for fictional crimes, mostly joking. By midnight, everyone had left except Barbara, who, despite my protests, insisted on sleeping on my couch. Once we were truly alone, I finally shattered. The pregnancy, the profound betrayal, the crushing humiliation, it all cascaded down. Barbara simply held me, letting me weep, avoiding empty platitudes or the tiresome, everything happens for a reason assurances people often offer when words escape them. As I slowly composed myself, around 2 in the morning, I finally confided in Barbara about the pregnancy. She wasn't even surprised, admitting she'd suspected my recent behavior. Then, I revealed the credit card statements, hotel charges, expensive restaurant tabs, and jewelry purchases that had mysteriously never materialized for me. I scrolled through screenshots of texts to replete with affectionate emojis and plans for secret rendezvous while I supposedly worked late. Both of us immediately knew was Maria, especially after her hasty exit from the party. We talked until dawn, evaluating options, meticulously formulating plans. Barbara inquired about informing Justin about the baby, but I remained steadfast. He would learn eventually, but on my terms, when I was prepared, not a moment sooner. Regarding his affair with Maria and his financial deceptions, I refused to stoop to petty vengeance. However, I resolved that the complete truth would indeed surface. Barbara regarded me with a blend of concern and admiration as I outlined my intentions. She commented that I could be quite intimidating when that determined glint appeared in my eye. I actually laughed, a genuine laugh, the first since opening that awful box. That night, lying in bed alone for the first time in years, one hand resting on my still flat stomach, I made 2 solemn vows. First, to my unborn child, I would provide a stable, loving home, no matter the circumstances. Second, to myself, I would emerge from this stronger than ever before. Justin believed he was penning the conclusion to our narrative with that cruel note. But if countless true crime podcasts consumed during laundry days have taught me anything, it's that the most satisfying retribution demands patience, meticulous strategy, and an unclouded mind, qualities I now possessed in abundance. Next, I'll recount the days and weeks that followed, including how I definitively confirmed the woman he left me for. Spoiler, it wasn't a shock, and the initial indicators that his grand exit plan wasn't quite unfolding as he'd envisioned. First update. Hey Reddit, Lily here with a continuation of my story. First, a huge thank you for all the incredibly supportive messages on my previous post. It's truly remarkable how internet strangers can sometimes display more kindness than people you've known for years, isn't it? So, where did I leave off? Yes, the absolute chaos of my birthday celebration. Justin had just stormed out after publicly shaming me, leaving me utterly numb, clutching a secret pregnancy only Barbara knew about. Let's fast forward to the aftermath. The following morning, I woke to the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee and pancakes. Barbara, bless her heart, was still there, acting as if nothing extraordinary had happened, yet simultaneously checking on me every 5 minutes. She continuously urged me to eat, clearly worried about the baby. I managed a few bites before the familiar wave of nausea hit. Morning sickness truly is a misnomer, isn't it? Justin didn't return that Sunday, a situation that brought both relief and a strange form of torment. I spent most of the day cycling through phases of numbness, profound anger, and a curious, detached sense of planning. I created lists, so many lists, financial issues to address, doctor appointments to schedule, people to inform. It was as if my brain had activated a survival protocol, prioritizing practical tasks to avoid the emotional hurricane raging within. Barbara helped me pack some of Justin's belongings, not everything, just enough to signal that I wasn't expecting him back. All the while, my phone buzzed with messages from our friends. Most were supportive, confused, and asking if I was okay. A few came from mutual acquaintances who seemed more interested in dissecting gossip than offering genuine concern. And conspicuously absent from the chorus of well-wishers? Maria. Remember her from the party, the one who suddenly felt unwell and departed abruptly? Indeed. Monday morning brought with it a harsh dose of reality. I called in sick to work, something I rarely ever do. I also scheduled an appointment with my doctor to confirm the pregnancy and discuss future options. Around midday, while immersed in researching tenant rights, our apartment lease bore both our names, a text arrived from Justin. "I'll be by at 7 to get my things. Ensure you're not there." The sheer audacity of it. I stared at that message for a full 5 minutes before responding with a simple, unambiguous no. Just that. No explanation, no alternative suggestion, just a firm boundary. He immediately called, and I immediately declined the incoming call. Then I dialed Barbara, who swiftly rallied our circle of friends. By 6:30, my apartment was filled. Aaron, Sergio, Lana, who had extended her visit, and a couple of others. They formed a protective human shield around me. Justin appeared precisely at 7 p.m., and the expression on his face when he encountered our welcoming committee was absolutely priceless. He attempted to project toughness, demanding an explanation, but Aaron, a towering figure at 6 feet 4 inches and built like a fortress, simply handed him a single suitcase containing some clothes and basic necessities. Aaron firmly informed him that the remainder of his possessions would be accessible only when he arranged a proper time and demonstrated basic human decency. For now, this was all he would receive. Justin tried to catch my eye, where I sat on the couch, deliberately serene. He began to sputter something about the absurdity of the situation and simply wanting his belongings. I finally addressed him directly, telling him he should consider himself fortunate I hadn't yet changed the locks, and that we could discuss his remaining items once I'd had time to process his charming birthday surprise. He started to argue, but something in my unwavering gaze must have deterred him. He took the suitcase and left, though not before muttering about my always needing an audience. Rich, coming from the man who publicly humiliated me in front of all our friends, wouldn't you agree? After he departed, I wept again, not for him, but for the future I had envisioned for us, for the plans that now required complete reevaluation, for the child who deserved a far better father than someone so cruel. The next morning, I contacted a locksmith and had the apartment locks changed. Now, regarding Maria. My suspicions had been aroused the moment she abruptly left the party, but I needed confirmation. It arrived from an unexpected source. Sergio texted me Tuesday evening to inform me that Justin and Maria had been involved. He and Aaron had seen them together 2 months prior, but couldn't be certain it was anything beyond innocent. He apologized for not having told me sooner. It felt like a gut punch, yet simultaneously, a perverse vindication. I had known Justin was being unfaithful. I just hadn't known with whom. Discovering it was Maria, someone who had been in my home, shared meals with me, and accepted my friendship, that felt like a particularly vile form of betrayal. Instead of confronting either of them directly, I chose to wait, observe, and gather further information. Perhaps I'd been listening to too many true crime podcasts, but patience truly is paramount in these scenarios. Over the next week, I immersed myself in practical matters. I officially confirmed my pregnancy, 10 weeks along. I consulted with a lawyer regarding the apartment lease and the division of assets. Thankfully, we weren't married, avoiding any messy divorce proceedings. I froze our joint credit card and established a new bank account solely in my name, basic protective measures. What I consciously withheld was telling anyone else, besides Barbara, about the pregnancy. Not yet. It wasn't denial, it was calculated strategy. I needed to meticulously arrange all my affairs first. 2 weeks after the birthday catastrophe, Justin texted again, requesting a discussion and to retrieve more of his possessions. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near our apartment, a public setting during the day on my terms. He looked disheveled, a sight that, I'm not proud to admit, brought a small surge of satisfaction. Unshaven, dark circles beneath his eyes, wearing a rumpled shirt. He immediately launched into what I can only describe as a half-hearted attempt at an explanation. He'd been discontent for some time, felt constrained, and believed a clean break would be simpler for everyone involved. I allowed him to ramble for a while before posing the only question that truly mattered. What precisely do you want? He seemed caught off guard by my directness, mumbling about wanting to be involved, doing the right thing, and even suggesting we might try again. At that last remark, I genuinely chuckled, not unkindly, but simply astonished that reconciliation was even a consideration for him. The conversation grew serious when I unequivocally outlined the new parameters for our interactions. I informed him that I had already sought legal counsel regarding child support and custody arrangements. The expression on his face when I reiterated the word lawyer was priceless. It was as if he'd suddenly realized he was swimming in the deep end, not merely wading in the shallows. I clarified that I wasn't preventing him from being part of his child's life, but that trust would need to be meticulously rebuilt from the ground up. This entailed scheduled visits, fulfilling financial responsibilities, and consistently showing up, not just when it suited him or when it could be showcased on social media. He repeatedly attempted to pivot the discussion towards our relationship as a couple, and I consistently redirected it back to our roles as co-parents. Eventually, he grew exasperated, accusing me of being cold and calculated. I calmly retorted that cold and calculated perfectly described his birthday note. The distinction, I explained, was that I was employing calculated detachment to protect our child, while he had done so to safeguard his own ego. That effectively silenced him. Before I departed, I handed him a folder containing essential information about the baby, ultrasound images, the estimated due date, and details for the doctor's appointments, alongside the child support proposal my lawyer had drafted. I instructed him to review it, consult his own legal representation if necessary, and inform me of his conclusions once he'd had time to process everything. As I rose to leave, he seized my wrist again. Seriously, what is it with the wrist grabbing? He questioned if Maria was aware of the pregnancy. I told him that wasn't my information to divulge, but that I hadn't made any special effort to tell her. Then I gently but firmly detached his hand and walked away. Over the subsequent weeks, a sense of calm gradually returned. I immersed myself in preparing the nursery, which largely involved transforming half of my bedroom into a baby command center, an IKEA crib that Barbara and I spent 3 agonizing hours assembling. Those instructions definitely need a translator. I swear, a changing table salvaged from a secondhand shop, and an enchanting mobile adorned with tiny stars, a thoughtful gift from my mother. I had been diligently saving money, taking on extra work editing social media content on weekends. It wasn't glamorous, but it effectively bridged the financial void Justin's departure had created. My mother also contributed some funds, a gesture that was both touching and slightly uncomfortable. I've always prided myself on my independence, you see. Meanwhile, Justin was undergoing his own process. He would occasionally text, inquiring about the baby or requesting photos of the nursery's progress. I'd respond factually, maintaining emotional distance. Sometimes he'd attempt to stray into personal territory, asking if I was seeing anyone know or reminiscing about a TV show we once watched together. I would gently redirect the conversation. Then came the incident, which truly merits capitalization. I was at Target on a Saturday afternoon, stockpiling diapers. You can never have too many, according to every parenting blog, when I quite literally collided carts with Maria again. What were the chances? This encounter, however, felt different. She wasn't awkward or defensive. In fact, she seemed almost relieved to see me. She immediately asked about my well-being and how the pregnancy was progressing, her interest genuinely palpable. Then, she uttered something that caught me completely off guard. She apologized. Not a rushed, insincere apology, but a truly thoughtful acknowledgement of the pain she had caused. She explained that Justin had fed her the same narrative he'd apparently spun for multiple women, that we were essentially finished, merely going through the motions, and that I was stifling his true potential. She later discovered he had been seeing another woman while they were dating. The profound irony of the situation was lost on neither of us. We ended up getting coffee, tea for me, and had a surreal discussion about the man we both now clearly understood. He wasn't a monster, but rather a deeply insecure individual who craved constant validation and was willing to fabricate stories to achieve it. As we said our goodbyes, Maria casually mentioned that Justin had been terminated from his job 2 weeks prior. She thought I should know, as it might impact child support. I thanked her for the information and returned home, processing this new development. I wasn't pleased about Justin's job loss. It complicated things. However, I appreciated being informed. That evening, as I folded tiny onesies and listened to my favorite podcast, my doorbell chimed. I peered through the peephole, always check the peephole, folks, and saw Justin standing there. Sober this time, but looking profoundly distressed. I opened the door but didn't invite him inside. He immediately began speaking, asking if I'd heard about his job, insisting it wasn't his fault, that he was being set up. Then, he asked if I'd seen Maria recently, his tone suspicious. I confirmed that yes, we'd encountered each other at Target. His face contorted into a strange expression, attempting to appear nonchalant, but merely looking constipated instead. He asked what we had discussed, and I simply replied, mostly you. He clearly did not appreciate that answer. He then grew agitated, claiming we were likely conspiring against him, that everyone was turning on him even though he was just trying to do his best in a difficult situation. I calmly reminded him that he had created this situation through his own choices, and that playing the victim wouldn't work with me. That's when he broke down. Not a dramatic, cinematic cry, but a quiet crumbling. He confessed his life was unraveling, no job, no partner, an apartment he could barely afford, and an impending baby he was unprepared for. For a fleeting moment, I felt that familiar impulse to comfort him, to fix things. But then, the icy words from that birthday note echoed in my mind, "You're useless, I deserve better." Instead of comfort, I offered clarity. I presented him with two distinct paths forward. He could either continue his self-pity party and lose everything, or he could step up, take genuine responsibility, and begin to rebuild. For the first time since this entire ordeal began, Justin truly listened. No interruptions, no excuses, just attentive silence. When I finished, he nodded slowly and inquired if we could speak inside. I hesitated, then agreed, but purposefully left the door ajar. Never fully enclose yourself with someone unstable. We sat at my kitchen table, and for the first time, he asked thoughtful questions about the baby, not superficial inquiries, but genuine questions about health, development, and plans for the delivery. As we spoke, a significant realization came to me. I no longer harbored any romantic feelings for Justin, but I did wish for him to be okay, not for his sake, but for our child's. Before he left, he promised to meticulously review the child support agreement and secure new employment without delay. Surprisingly, he also thanked me for not harboring hatred when I had every right to. I told him hatred consumes too much energy, and I was reserving mine for more vital priorities now. The following weeks ushered in subtle transformations. Justin found new employment, less lucrative but more stable. He signed the child support agreement without any dispute. He even enrolled in a parenting class at the community center, a truly unexpected turn. As my due date drew nearer, things felt not perfect, but functional. Justin and I had established a careful co-parenting dynamic, founded on clear boundaries and mutual expectations. He attends doctor appointments when invited, and he even assisted in assembling the crib when I finally conceded defeat to those perplexing IKEA instructions last week, at 7 months pregnant. A package arrived from him. Inside was a journal, simple and practical, accompanied by a note that read, "For your thoughts, plans, and all the true crime podcast notes you wish to jot down. You were never useless. I was simply too self-absorbed to recognize your worth." I didn't reply. Some gestures require no verbal acknowledgement. But I did begin using the journal, primarily to chronicle this journey, so that someday I can share with our child the complex, chaotic, and profoundly human story of their genesis. Next time, I'll provide an update on the birth, which is fast approaching, and how Justin truly adapted to the reality of fatherhood. Because if this entire experience has taught me anything, it's that people have a remarkable capacity for surprise, sometimes with their cruelty, sometimes with their growth, but always with their inherent humanity. Last update. Hey Reddit fam, it's been quite a while since my last update, so some of you might have forgotten about me, haha. A tremendous amount has transpired, and I've meant to post, but having a newborn doesn't exactly leave you with an abundance of free time or fully functional brain cells. So, the baby is here. Little Zoe made her entrance 6 weeks ago, weighing a healthy 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and, undeniably, her father's chin, honestly, the only feature of his I don't mind her inheriting. Labor was, well, let's just say all those YouTube birth vlogs I binge-watched did not adequately prepare me for the reality. 32 hours, people. A full 32 hours. The amusing thing is, during those seemingly endless contractions, I kept reflecting on how dramatically I had changed since that disastrous birthday party 8 months prior. I was then a woman paralyzed by shock, clutching a breakup note. Now, I was bringing a whole new human being into existence. Life certainly unfolds rapidly, doesn't it? Justin was actually present at the hospital for the birth, a fact that surprised almost everyone, myself included. He arrived with an enormous teddy bear that quite literally couldn't fit through the door of my hospital room. Seriously, where did he imagine I would put such a thing in my one-bedroom apartment? But he remained, through the waiting, through my less-than-ladylike screams, through every moment. Barbara, however, was my unwavering pillar of strength. When the intensity mounted, and I was convinced I couldn't endure another second, she was right there, gently reminding me that I was already doing it. Justin mostly hovered awkwardly in the corner, scrolling through his phone, occasionally asking if I required anything, which, to his credit, was an effort. When Zoe finally arrived and they placed her on my chest, a moment of profound clarity washed over me. Every challenge we'd faced, all the heartbreak, the betrayal, the crushing uncertainty, it all culminated in her. And I wouldn't alter a single step of that tumultuous journey. Justin wept when he held her, not dramatic, Hollywood-esque tears, but an awkward, struggling to hold it in kind of crying that left his nose running and his face splotchy. It was the most authentic emotion I had witnessed from him in our entire relationship. The initial weeks at home dissolved into a blur of diaper changes, feeding difficulties, and a level of sleep deprivation unlike anything I had ever experienced. My mother came to stay for 2 weeks, a presence that was both a blessing and, occasionally, a challenge. She continually rearranged my kitchen cabinets, convinced my system made no logical sense, but honestly, who stores colanders with pots instead of strainers? That's just pure chaos. Justin has been surprisingly attentive, not in a live-in-father capacity, but he visits 3 times a week for our scheduled appointments. Sometimes he brings practical items like diapers or takeout meals. Other times, he brings ridiculous baby outfits that are completely impractical but undeniably adorable. Last week, it was a miniature leather jacket for a 6-week-old. I simply couldn't bring myself to tell him she'd outgrow it before the weather even turns cool enough for her to wear it. Our co-parenting dynamic continues to evolve. We experience moments of friction, particularly when he arrives late or cancels last minute due to work commitments. However, we also share moments where it feels almost normal, like when he noticed I was struggling with a clogged milk duct, actually researched remedies, then appeared with cabbage leaves and a heating pad. If you know, you know. Financially, things have settled into a manageable routine. Justin consistently pays his child support, and I've been able to work from home part-time, managing social media. I'm not getting rich, but it covers the bills. My landlord, remarkably, permitted me to renew the lease solely in my name, without any complications, which felt like a small triumph. The apartment now feels completely transformed. Justin's belongings are gone, replaced by baby equipment that somehow occupies twice the space. I repainted the living room a soft sage green, a shade that brings me joy every time I see it. It's truly astonishing how profoundly your environment influences your mood, isn't it? Maria and I still occasionally cross paths. Our city isn't that vast. Our encounters are less strained now, more akin to seeing a distant acquaintance than someone who once appended my life. Last time, she was with a bearded man who called her babe every few seconds. She appeared happy, though perhaps a little forced. I genuinely hope she is. As for Justin, he continues to face some struggles. His new job isn't going well, according to Barbara, who heard from Aaron, who plays basketball with Justin's coworker, got to love those small-town gossip networks. He moved into a rather dismal studio apartment that he frequently complains about. Sometimes, when he visits Zoe, I catch him glancing around my place with an expression difficult to decipher, a mix of nostalgia and regret, perhaps. The most peculiar development has been Justin's apparent journey of personal growth. He mentioned he's been seeing a therapist, which is astounding. This is the man who once claimed therapy was just paying someone to listen to you complain. He's been reading parenting guides and even joined an online fathers group. Occasionally, I wonder if aliens replace the real Justin with this pod person. My own life, too, has taken some unexpected turns. Remember how I mentioned working part-time from home? That opportunity actually arose through a connection from Sergio, who recommended me to his sister's company. The work is engaging, the colleagues are pleasant, and most importantly, I can manage it while Zoe naps, when she deigns to nap, that is. And then there's Eli. Yes, there's an Eli now. He's the delivery driver who consistently brought my grocery orders during those initial chaotic postpartum weeks. Initially, I barely registered him beyond a mumbled thank you and please leave the bags by the door, because, well, new mom zombie mode. But he started including small notes with my deliveries, suggesting items other parents had found useful, or occasionally a silly dad joke that would make me snort laugh. One day, when I was particularly disheveled, hadn't showered in 3 days, pretty sure there was spit up in my hair. He dropped off my order and asked if I wanted help carrying the cases of bottled water into my kitchen. I hesitated, a strange man in my apartment and all that, but something about him felt safe. As he helped put away the groceries, we began to chat. It turns out he's finishing his degree in environmental science, delivering groceries to fund his studies. He also regularly helps with his younger sister's 2 children, which explains why he didn't flee screaming from my chaotic apartment. We exchanged numbers, ostensibly for any future delivery issues, a comfortable fiction we both understood. We've been texting, and he stopped by for coffee a few times. It's nothing serious. I'm in no rush to dive into another relationship. But it's genuinely pleasant to converse with an adult who isn't discussing diaper brands or sleep training methods. Last week, when Justin came for his visit, Eli was just leaving. The look on Justin's face was undeniably complex. Later, he casually inquired about that guy. I kept my answer vague, partly because there isn't much to tell yet, and partly because it's honestly not his concern. He made a couple of comments about me, moving on quickly, before seemingly catching himself and backing off. Barbara believes I should pursue things with Eli, but I'm approaching it day by day. After everything I've experienced, I've learned that rushing into situations rarely ends well. Besides, Zoe remains my absolute priority right now. Dating as a single mother is an entirely different game, and I'm still learning the rules. Speaking of Barbara, she has been my unwavering constant throughout this entire ordeal. When I'm overwhelmed and convinced I'm failing at motherhood, she arrives with iced coffee, my first love, finally back in my life now that breastfeeding is more manageable, and reminds me that all new parents feel this way. She occasionally takes Zoe for a few hours so I can shower, nap, or simply stare at a wall in blessed silence. Yesterday was actually my birthday, precisely 1 year since that fateful box irrevocably changed everything. Instead of dwelling on that painful memory, I hosted a small gathering at my place. Barbara and her husband, Aaron and Sergio, my cousin Lana, and a few other close friends. Justin briefly stopped by to deliver a gift, a surprisingly thoughtful bracelet featuring Zoe's birthstone, but he didn't stay. As I surveyed my modest apartment, filled with people who genuinely cared for me, glimpsed my daughter sleeping peacefully in her bassinet, and reflected on the life I've meticulously rebuilt from the wreckage of my previous expectations, I felt an emotion I hadn't anticipated: profound gratitude. I don't pretend to know what the future holds. Perhaps Eli will become something significant, or maybe he'll remain a brief, kind chapter in this ongoing narrative. Perhaps Justin will continue to evolve into a genuinely decent co-parent, or perhaps he'll regress to old habits. Maybe I'll remain in this apartment indefinitely, or perhaps I'll eventually find a house with a garden for Zoe to play in. What I do understand, unequivocally, is that I am no longer the same woman who stood clutching that note on her birthday last year. That woman was shattered, but resilient. This woman has been painstakingly rebuilt, stronger in the broken places. So, I suppose if there's any overarching message to this protracted, messy tale, it's that sometimes the worst experiences can ultimately lead you to discover the best version of yourself. Not instantly, not effortlessly, but eventually. Oh, and for those curious about that colossal teddy bear Justin brought to the hospital, it currently serves a vital purpose as a barricade, preventing Zoe from rolling off my bed when I need to briefly put her down to use the restroom. So, I suppose it ultimately found its calling. And for those asking about the notorious breakup note, I kept it. It resides in a memory box in Zoe's closet, alongside her hospital bracelet, her first lock of hair, and the positive pregnancy test. Someday, when she's old enough, we'll share the entire story with her. Not to burden her, but because it's an intrinsic part of her unique history, too.